Imagine driving alone through the desolate Texas borderlands at midnight, the only light your flickering headlights cutting through an unnatural fog rolling in from the Rio Grande. Suddenly, your radio static erupts into fragmented whispers, names, dates, pleas for help, before cutting to dead silence. And in your rearview mirror, you glimpse shadowy figures shambling behind your car, too fast to be human, their eyes glowing like embers in the night. This is the nightmare that unfolded for one U.S. Border Patrol agent in Eagle Pass, Texas, where a routine missing person report spiraled into a horror no one could explain, leaving the town gripped by a fear that still lingers like the desert heat. Eagle Pass, Texas. It's a place where the very air seems to pulse with tension. Perched along the banks of the Rio Grande, directly opposite Piedras Negras, Mexico, it is a borderland in every sense of the word. By day, the town hums with a familiar rhythm, but it's after dark that Eagle Pass reveals its most haunting face. The river itself becomes a living character in this story. The Rio Grande, at times sluggish and muddy, at others swift and treacherous, serves as both a boundary and a bridge. At night, its waters reflect the harsh floodlights from the American side, casting long, ghostly shadows across the brush. The silence is punctuated only by the distant bark of dogs, the hum of patrol trucks, and the echoing call of a night bird. This geography creates a unique atmosphere, one that feels isolated yet exposed, serene yet always on edge. For 12 years, this was Javier Morales' world. A veteran U.S. Border Patrol agent, his routine was as familiar as the creak of his boots on gravel. He was a family man, with a wife named Rosa and a 5-year-old daughter who drew pictures of the river as a sleeping dragon. He prided himself on his vigilance, his steady hands on the wheel of his dusty white Chevy Tahoe. He knew the shopkeepers by name, the ranchers who checked their fences by flashlight, the quiet hum of the drones scanning the river reeds from above. He understood that policing this edge of the world was as much about people as it was about enforcing the law. Javier had seen it all: desperate families seeking a new life, the cold efficiency of the cartels, the unforgiving nature of the landscape itself. But nothing in his 12 years of service could have prepared him for the events of late July 2018. As thunderheads gathered low over the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples, Javier felt an unease settle into his bones, a chill that had nothing to do with the impending rain. It started innocuously enough, around 2:17 in the morning. His radio buzzed with a tip from an anonymous caller, a rarity in these parts. "Body on the north bank, near the old pecan grove," a voice rasped, distorted and fleeting, before the line went dead. Javier acknowledged the call, his tires crunching over gravel as he veered onto a rutted dirt path that snaked along the river's edge. Ahead, the pecan grove loomed, its ancient trees twisted like arthritic fingers reaching skyward, their leaves whispering secrets in the gusts of wind. He killed the engine about 50 yards out, grabbing his flashlight. The beam sliced through the fog, illuminating swirling eddies of mist that danced as if they were alive. Stepping out, his boots sank in the soft mud. The river's murmur was a constant undercurrent, and that's when he saw it. Or rather, the absence of it. Drag marks led from the water's edge into the underbrush, deep furrows suggesting something heavy had been hauled away. But there was no body, no sign of struggle. Only a single, pristine sneaker lying abandoned, its laces untied and caked in river slime. His heart pounded with the rhythm of distant thunder. The mud was fresh, disturbed no more than an hour ago, yet the drag marks ended abruptly at the tree line, vanishing as if whatever had been pulled from the river had simply evaporated into thin air. He radioed it in, his voice steady but edged with tension. "Dispatch, this is Morales, Sector 7. Possible floater at Pecan Grove coordinates. No visual on subject, but signs of disturbance." Static answered first, then a garbled response, words overlapping like echoes. "Copy. Proceed with shadows moving." The line hissed and died. Javier was alone, with only the intensifying wind, which now carried a faint coppery odor, like fresh blood. He pressed forward into the grove, branches snagging his sleeves like desperate hands. Here, beneath the ancient boughs, the world grew quiet. But it was a layered quiet, alive with whispers. Moonlight filtered through the canopy in silvery shafts, revealing more anomalies. A cluster of footprints, not human, too elongated with claw-like impressions. Scraps of dark fabric were snagged on low thorns. His mind raced through rational explanations, coyotes, a cartel cleanup, but a primal dread stirred within him, the kind passed down in border town folklore about los desaparecidos, the vanished ones who weren't taken by the current, but by the river itself. As Javier knelt to bag the sneaker for evidence, the wind shifted violently, and the whispers began. Not the rustle of foliage, but actual words, fragmented and overlapping, seeming to emanate from the trees themselves. Ayuda, no me dejes. It drags us. Gooseflesh prickled his skin. He spun his light wildly, catching glimpses of movement at the periphery, elongated shadows stretching impossibly long, detaching from the trees and slithering toward him. Panic clawed at his throat. He backed toward his vehicle, fumbling for his radio, only for the device to erupt in a cacophony of screams, distorted voices pleading in Spanish and English before it shorted out in a shower of sparks.
That's when the core of the horror struck. From the riverbank, a low, guttural hum rose, vibrating through the very earth. The fog coalesced into humanoid forms, gaunt figures with hollow eyes and dripping limbs, shambling from the water. Their mouths opened in silent wails as they reached for him with elongated arms that ended in hooked claws. These were the entities of the Rio Grande, the legends made flesh. They were La Llorona's sorrow turned to hunger, the restless spirits of soldiers and settlers, the spectral figures of los desaparecidos given monstrous form. Javier fired warning shots, the muzzle flashes illuminating decayed faces twisted in agony, their bodies marked with strange, glowing sigils. In that split-second clarity, he realized these were the vanished. Migrants, locals, anyone who'd crossed the wrong threshold, now puppets of whatever lurked beneath the Rio Grande. He bolted for the Tahoe, slamming the door as the first entity pounded against the glass, its hand leaving smears of an ooze that sizzled on contact. The vehicle rocked as more closed in, their whispers now a deafening chorus inside his skull. "Join us. You are numbered. You are taken." The engine roared to life. Javier floored it, tires spinning in the mud before finding traction, barreling back toward the station as the entities gave chase, phasing through the brush like smoke. They pursued him until the first light of dawn finally broke over the horizon, and they dissolved back into the river mist. Javier Morales tendered his resignation just weeks later. The immediate terror subsided, but it left a permanent mark. He was haunted by nightmares where the river called his name, and his daughter's drawings were now filled with shadowy figures standing by the water. The lingering fear seeped into the daily life of Eagle Pass. People avoided the pecan grove. Locals whispered about strange sounds on stormy nights.
The story took on a life of its own, blurring the line between fact and legend, a cautionary tale passed down to younger generations, and sometimes, after a heavy rain, new drag marks appear by the riverbank. A single sneaker washes up on the shore, always one, always fresh. A chilling reminder of the whispering winds of Eagle Pass and the endless, hungry cycle of the vanishing.